Fitzy here, back out again with another one. Simple little roll pan, Frenched in license plate. All made with simple tools. Stick around. Hey, before we get started, check down underneath my video and you'll see a link to my merch store, Fitzy's Fabrications at teespring.com. Go over and have a look. I got t-shirts, hoodies, stickers. She's mint. Stick around. Alright, so let's get started. As you can see, this is the last thing I'm going to do on this truck now. The customer wants a roll pan put on the back of it. And this is what they came from factory. This is the way they were. And the license plate just hung in the middle. That's it. I'm going to join the two of these together and put a relief in the middle for the plate to mount to. First of all, what I got to do is I got to mount them. And I got some damage here I got to get fixed up and straightened up so it can go on. So the first thing I'm going to do now is tidy up this dent here. And get this panel fitting, get both of them so I can get them pretty well clamped in place, bolted on. I'm going to change this system here. I'm going to have it bolting on in the middle here. I'm going to have the whole piece so that it bolts on. Most people put roll pans on and fills them flush and all that type of stuff. I was never one for, I like seams, I always did. And as you can see, this is the way this is supposed to be over here. You know, I'm not going to get carried away with this. I'm just going to turn around and join two of these together. Put a little license plate relief mill, something very simple. The concept is the same on almost any roll pan that I'm going to do here. I'll make the actual roll first. I'm not going to try to make the plate and then try to make everything around it. I'm going to make the roll first, get all this one piece, and get it so it bolts on and fits nice, and then I'm going to cut it for the license plate. So let's get this straightened up now and get two of these fitting better than this. Well, after much banging and grinding and welding, I got this back half normal. Right? I ended up having to put a piece in the bottom of it there, replacing this section here. Had to get that done. And then right here across the bottom edge had a big bow in it, and I had to get that out of it. And also up on top edge. And I used my I-beam for that. All I kept doing was just laying on the flat edge like that and working it back and forth till I got it where I liked it. And same with the bottom edge. I used that as my flat edge on the bottom side there. So I used that like a dolly more than anything else. But I got one, that's the worst one I think I got done there now. That's ready to install. After test fitting it a few times now, it seems to be all right. I'm not worried about these because I'm going to eliminate these two holes. These usually came from factory. Set this up here now. These came from factory. They were bolted on this way. This bracket, you can't get behind it. So I'm going to run a tab off it and put two studs on the back side of this panel and have it so you can bolt it on this right here from behind. So this will have a smooth look, so there'll be no bolts in it, and she'll bolt up in the factory location over here and them two holes there, right, on the back side panel. So, and then this here will basically be eliminated. I'm planning on coming to about here somewhere with the new panel I'm going to put over it. I got to make it to this shape here and then put over the whole works of it. So I'm going to go ahead now and bolt this on and start straightening up the other side. I got that one mounted in place. Nice seam here, nice seam going down through here. It's nice and flush this way here. Flush up around here is going good. In along here is a pretty decent seam. Got to come up a small bit. Up on this end here. That's minor, that'll go along there, it's fine. So now I got that there pretty well straightened away. I'll just let go of the vice grips here now and pull this side up and tighten that up. And I'll have the same seam right along there. It looks the same right along this way, as you can see. Same gap. So now I'll come over here and straighten this one up. This one here shouldn't be as bad. I just got this laid in place here now. It's not beat up as much, and that was the worst one. So I'll get this one here fitting, and I get this one fitting, and we'll start sizing up this center section. That's the extent of it. I'll just pound on that a dozen more times now and test fit it here and dolly it up some more. But just the old I-beam. So I went ahead and I cleaned everything up. I had a small spot down here. As you can see, there's brass been put in this here. I intend on cutting all this off anyway. One thing with brass, you should realize is that it's not something easy to remove. And most times when brass was into metal, it ends up having to warp everything around it. So anytime I come across this stuff, I'll just cut it clean right out. Case in point, this section here. Someone had done some brass repairs to the upper section right here. And it's a very small piece. I could probably bend it up and shape it and whatnot too. But what I'm going to do here to make life a lot easier, I'm just going to build each individual flat section, much the same as I did in the fender repair. I'll weld this piece in, finish it, trim it off, put another section on it. It's a lot easier than trying to fit one piece into 1, 2, 3 sides, and that is that small. I'll be here for hours beating it out. You can do it, yes, fold it up, bend it up and stuff like that, but I find it a lot easier because I can get at the back side of it to weld as well. So I'll just turn around and I'll start making up these pieces one at a time, grinding and dressing, and then I'll turn around and have that piece there replaced. Because brass is not something that it was a way of life at one point before MIG welders came along. It's great stuff. It lasts forever. Them spots will outlast everything around it. It's just that it's not used much today in the automotive industry. It's basically, the problem you got is it ends up warping everything up, right? And it's great for you just patching stuff up and you're sodding it up and you know, sending it out the door. It was the way things were done. So I'm going to go ahead, make up the pieces there now, weld the pieces here, a piece here, a piece here, and get this done. As you can see, all I did is I turn around and put one piece in, finish it and dress it, put the second piece in, finish, dress it, and put the bottom piece in and finish and dress it. It was a lot easier to do it that way and try to bend up a little piece, try to fit in there, to try to get this here the same as this down here, and this here not too forward or back or whatnot, right? So, you know, just something that you can just simply do. You haven't got to get carried away with it, just one piece at a time. You've seen me do that before in other videos. So it's a lot easier to do that. Now that I got that done, I'm going to fit that in place so I can start making the centerpiece. So I got that all bolted on the factory location over here. Got a decent seam and everything going down along there now, factory. Nice going across here. What I got to do now is make a piece to go to join two of these together. I'm going to come over past all this brass thing and replace all that there. It originally bolted on here. I'm going to eliminate that because it's not going to be nice when you're looking at it from behind and you can see bolts on the back of it. So I'm going to smooth them out. I'm going to make little brackets in there and have it so it bolts on from behind. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a piece of steel now. That'll go from here to here, and it'll wrap down around it, and I'll start shaping. Now this here got a little thing going on. This drops down here. So I got to be concerned about that when I make this across here. This is going to drop a bit. So first thing I'm going to do is get a piece cut out and get it cleaned up. Okay, I got a piece of steel cut off, all cleaned up. A little bit longer, a little bit wider. All I'm going to do here first now is I'm going to make this bend here, and bend this in across here. I'm not going to worry about this just yet. Wait, if you look at that, it kind of kicks down. I'm not going to worry about that yet. I'm just going to get this first bend put in here first, so I got something to start with here at the top side. Now I got that bent up, and I got it laid in place there. As you can see, that's the way that'll go, and you can see the way this kicks up now. So all I went and did is I marked the two locations where it started to kick up. Right here and here. You can see the marker. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that there, through there, and then start shaping that to that, and then put a piece in there after the fact. You could do that, or you can cut this down here and tap this down. I think that will be an issue because you might end up, this here won't end up being as nice and straight and sharp, and I think this area here should be as sharp as it can possibly be. So I'm just going to trim this off here, leaving the roll on the cut, and then I'm going to shape it so all it is a flat piece I got to put in there. So all I got done here is I got it marked out here now. You can see where I got the cut line put to. The first thing you would probably want to do is just cut it right through the corner. But I'm trying to leave this little rolled edge on it all along here. And you can see where this rolls up, and then you can see this, where the light hits it right here. I'm going to cut it along there out here. So that when I shapes this up, and I go to put a piece in, there's only a flat piece, and I still got this rolled edge on it as well. Because I should be able to shape that edge to flow up and go over this way here to fit it nicer, so that I haven't got to tamper with the edge itself. And then all I got to do is put a strip in along here. Now here's all I got done. You can see the way I bent that up there and I straightened it out, and I got this strip now that I got to put in there. This is how I done this. Put this in here. I just grabbed it and I bent it up. Brought it back. Even on both sides. And I bent it down. Got it up. That's all I did. I'll work that now so it fits better. You can see it comes over and it flows down, flows back up again. All I'll do now is I'll put two pieces in there and finish that right off. So there's two relief cuts on both sides there now, and I got the shape that I want. So now I need to fill in these sections here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it on top of this here, I-beam, clamp it in place there, and I'll get two little strips now and put in there, and I'll weld them in from the back side first and get them well in place. So this here section here stays the same right along through, and I'll do the same for the other side. That's all I did. I cut out a little strip. It'll fit right in there. And I'll line it up there now. And I'll weld it onto this sheet first, and then I'll push that down and then weld it on there, so then it goes straight up and then rolls in around and that all the way around. And I'll weld it all up on the inside first, and then I'll just flip it over well up the outside and dress it. I'll leave the inside alone. And so there it is. The strip is all welded in there. I got it welded on the inside and the outside as well. That's the way it is on the inside. And that's the way it is on the outside. Now before I go over here and do this one, I'm going to finish this one right off and grind it right off. Not going to let myself get too far ahead of myself. So I'll grind all this down now and get it all so it looks like it's not even welded. So I got the other side done as well. So now you can see the little contour in it, the way it comes across there now. And I got it all grinded off and dressed ready to go. And I can come over here and do a test fit on us. Quick test fit. Flows with the thing. Now next thing I got to do now is I got to put a roll on this panel. If you look at the original panel here, you can see this crown. So I got to put a bit of roll in it now in this one here to match that. See this contour here fits pretty good, look. Flows down across that pretty good. So I got a little crease on the bottom side of this here now, but this here has to go in and down. So I got to get all that fitting first. But I'm happy with that. That's another section of it done there now. I'm going to mark the bottom of this now and figure out where this here has to be bent across here. What I did then is I measured from here down to this bend. If you look at, there's another bend in the bottom of this. Goes along the bottom edge of it. It's a very subtle bend, but that's the edge there. And what I did then is I measured from this edge here down to the edge of the bend, and then I marked it. The problem I got is I got to bend it on the other side, so I went and put a grinder mark in it, so that when I flip it over, I'll have reference to where my bends are going to be from this side here. So I'm going to go over now and put a little bend in this here, just a small bit here, to put a crease across the bottom of it. There we go. Nice little roll edge to match that. Now I got that all laid up. What I did, I came over here and I set this up the best spot that I wanted to, and I marked it here on the box itself on both sides. Mark it there. And I went up and I laid this up in place, and I marked that mark onto this here. Because what I need to do, I got to remove the top section off this panel, so I can lower it down to get this edge right, because this is what I'm really concerned about, is getting this edge right on both sides. I've done the same thing over here. I laid this in place and I marked it as well, so I can just cut this top edge off. I'm not going to cut none of this off because I've been doing the cutting butt down through here, but for now all I'm doing is just basically, I want to get the top edge right here. I want to get a nice edge in here so this looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead now and trim off them pieces and get them ready to fit. So I went ahead and I bolted that back on. As you can see, I got the corner cut off it, line up with that spot there. So when I fit this up in place, I got a gap here, so I should be able to work this here. So I get a nice seam here, and I've done the same thing over here. I cut that one to trim that there, so when I fit that up in place there, I can go along there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit the centerpiece in place and clamp it on right here, and line up these sections here and here, and work on getting these welded here. Now I was hoping to do a cutting butt on this here after I trim this off and put it in place, but what I'm noticing is this here, where this is bringing up in this panel here, I need to bring this panel inwards into that, and it's not letting me do it. So I've been sitting here thinking about what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is temporarily put this up in position where it got to do, got to go, and I'm going to put a couple of tacks along here where I can cut them off again, so that there is permanently mounted where it has to go. And I'll do the same thing over here, and then I'm going to scribe it like I got done here, as you can see, and I'm going to cut that off out of the way so I can lay the panel in place. I'm having troubles getting this to line up because all this is in the way of the panel moving inboard, because I figured I'd be able to just be able to line up this top corner edge, but it's not working right. So I had to rethink my plan. So I'm going to set this up here now, and I'm going to put a couple of tack welds so that's permanently mounted where I want it to go, so I can trim it off. I'm going to do one side at a time and get it fitting where I want it to, and weld it all together. Now I got a temporary welded on there, so now it's held on half solid, and I got it welded in a spot where I can cut it off later. Now I got this scribed here, and I can cut this off to get this out of my way. I went ahead and I fit this side on as well, so I can keep both of them symmetrical, looking the same. And basically I'm going to trim this one up now, cut this down as well, and I'm going to work on fitting this piece in her, and I might even do the same thing here. I might tack weld it on here so that don't move, so I can keep all that. A big concern is I'm trying to make this here roll lip come along here consistently over to this side here. So I'll get some stuff trimmed up here now and start fitting it. So I got that fitting in place, and I got this upper corner concentrated right here. I want to get this here looking right first. If you let this go, you'll see this sticks out down on the bottom. I'm never worried about that type of stuff. All I'm concerned about is getting my cornered edges done first. So I got that side there done, and then I come over here and done the same thing. Then I clamped it in place, and what I'm going to work on now is I'm going to working my way down now, welding all this together. So I go down underneath it, and you can see it lines up pretty good on the bottom. On the bottom side there. So I'll get these welded up here now, and the front face will be done. Then I can take it off and weld this up in here. And it's looking pretty good there now. That's a nice little feature in that. Just adds to it, right? Just don't go straight across. Right? So there it is, all butt welded in place. I haven't got it fully in there yet, so I'm gonna take it off for that. But I got it welded right down underneath as well. Over here, same thing. Got it all done. I gotta take it all off now and weld it on the inside and everything. Got all this clear here. I'm gonna have to make up some sort of mounting bracket. But I'm gonna get all that finished up first before it goes onto the mounting bracket. So if you look at it there, looks pretty neat. So here it is. Worked out pretty good. Went ahead and I welded all the top sides. I welded everything on the inside as well. I'm going to leave everything all that alone because I was trying to finish the outside nicely. So I'm going to sit down now and grind all that off. I still got to cut the bottom off. As you can see, that was too long. But I got the nice little rolled edge going off the edge of it there. And the top side here comes across, drops down, goes across again, flows into each other. So all that's left now is to grind all that up, and then that'll be that stage done. Don't ever jump too far ahead on stuff like this. Like I can see now wanting to jump right into putting the license plate in the middle of this. But I think every time you do a project, take it so far, finish it off. Grinding has always been a nightmare, okay? You don't mind it when you got small amounts of it to do, but if you got a lot of grinding to do after the fact, it can really get overwhelming and you don't want to be at it, and then you don't do a very good job on it. So do a small bit of welding, grind it, dress it, finish it. Small bit of welding, grind, dress it, finish it. Anyway, I'm gonna grind, dress, and finish that. So there it is. I got it all welded and grinded up. I had to re-weld it a couple of times. This thin stuff is very easy to move, and when you weld it, it got a tendency to pull away from you. So I had to weld it a couple of times to get it, and it's not bad there now. It's pretty good, right? This stuff is very hard to work with. That's why I like working with 18 gauge. I never told you that in this video. I kind of naturally figured it, but yes, this here is 18 gauge metal. This here is like 22, 24 gauge metal. So you're trying to join the two of them together. I've said it many times before, I prefer to work with 18 for the simple fact that you got room to grind, okay? And for shaping and stuff like that, you can work from the 18 gauge off into the 22 when you're grinding. That way you don't grind the 22 too much. But she's all welded up inside. All the top edges are all dressed up. The bottom lip is cut off. Right? Next thing I'm going to do now is I got to make two mounts that'll go here that I can bolt the center on, because right now I only got two out here that bolts on, and I want to have it so that the mounts here in the middle as well before I go ahead and cut this out for the license plate in the middle. I'm going to make up the piece that'll actually fall right in here. But that's basically the roll pan all made up, and next thing now is to make a couple of mounts and put a license plate piece in there. I went ahead now and I cut out 4 little tabs, nothing fancy, okay? I got these rigged up. These got a little bit of a bend on them. I got them marked so they can be spot welded on there. My plan is to have a stud on this here so it can be mounted to the original chassis. And I got it marked where the original chassis section was. I don't want to put nuts and bolts. Previously, factory, this had 2 studs or 2 holes in this here that bolted on. But I want to shave it and have it so just basically it bolts on and you don't have no bolts on the outside, right? So I got this rigged up here now. Just got a couple of quarter nuts that I'm going to use on it. And I'm going to show you the process now of what I'm going to do. All I got done is I got 4 tabs bent out. These 2 here will be mounted to the rear valance, and these 2 will be mounted to the truck. And these here will be used as a stud. I'll just weld them on there and basically have it so that it bolts onto that piece there. Anyway. This is all I got done. I got the inside tab welded onto here, and I got this piece here now with the stud on it, and that's bolted on. And what I'll do is I'll weld the rear valance to this piece here, so it'll be less strain on the bolt itself, pulling on the panel itself. So some might say, why don't you just reuse these? These are hard to get at from behind. I wanted it in the middle of both of these here, and I wanted it inboard more. So I just made up, this is a quick, simple, fast way to make a tab, to mount it to it. So all this will do, this here will be permanently welded to the valance, and then I'll just unbolt with one stud. You can see over here I got 2 holes drilled. One here, one here, one here, one here, and I'll just plug weld them, and that'll be the piece that'll hold that together. So I'm gonna bolt all that on there now. So there it is, all bolted back on again, and now you can see I got to plug weld this hole here and these 2 over here as well, and that way that little plate will be part of this, and I can unbolt it from there then. So I'm gonna go ahead, weld 2 of them up and dress 2 of them up, and then that'll be done. As you can see, 2 of them are studded in there as well. So they're all welded. I'll just grind dress them up now, and the rear valance is all mounted, and it has 2, 4, 6 mounting points. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is build a piece for making the license plate relief in it, right? So I can put the license plate mount on the back of it. So I got them all welded and grinded up. They're all done. So now the last piece of the puzzle on this one here now is making the mount for the license plate. So I went up, dug up an old license plate. Just so happens it was 1973, Newfoundland Labrador plate. And I turn around now, I'm just going to lay it up in place. Now you notice that I don't need to make a full box because the plate is going to hang down. I don't want the plate up inside, so the plate's going to hang down a small bit like this here, but I want the top of the plate to recess back, and possibly then if you want to put lights in it later we can, right? So you can see that I don't need a very big box and how far I'll have to go back and whatnot. So all I'm going to do now is gonna get a scrap piece of metal, clean it up, and start making something that is probably 3/4 of the size of this box of this license plate. So I went ahead, cut out a scrap piece of steel, and turned around, cleaned it all up and got it all ready. And I played around with some ideas of how, where to mount it and whatever. Now I know for a fact that I only need roughly this much of the license plate for it to mount on the back of it, because it's going to hang off the bottom of it anyway. So I measured up the license plate and it was 12 inches, so I added an inch on either side, and then I added an inch on the top as well. And then I decided, because of the way the taillights are shaped here, the way these rolls off here like this here, I'm going to follow that same design into this here. I'm going to roll the edges on this here as well. The match thing, it seems to be a bit abrupt. Maybe I'll make that a bit smaller. Looking at it there now, I went and used the proper tools for it, the circle unit, right? So I'll find something smaller to use, a washer or something. And what I'll do then is I'm going to bend up these corners. I'm not going to worry about the heights and the lengths. I left this one nice and long because that's going to be the longest one of them all. And this is probably going to fade away to nothing here. So this will be cut like somehow like this, but I'm not going to do that. None of that until it's mounted in place, and I'll trim that all off after the fact. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this little circle here a little bit smaller. I'm going to mark up here, mark out here from where these 2 points cross, and cut that off. you see me roll up the 2 pieces of scrap steel that I cut out the corners here. And I rolled them up, tweaked them with a hammer and everything, tightened them up and everything so they fit in there nice. And I made 2 of them, made sure that both of them were the same. The length don't really matter, mind you, right? One's a bit longer than the other because I got to cut them off anyway. But the shapes, the curvatures are the same on both of them. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fit them in the corner, start welding on one side here. And then across the bottom and bring them up the other side. Not concerned about this in here. You can see where I trimmed that off earlier. I'll weld that spot there, going up the back there, across the bottom, and then I'll adjust the side to fit it. Now I went ahead and I welded up the back, and after I got it welded up the back, I come across the bottom here. Well, first thing I did is I line up this side here, attack this corner, and then I welded the bottom, then come up this side here. Did the same thing over here, you can see it better here. I welded up the side here, then I maneuvered this over and tacked it in the corner. When I was happy with that, I tacked it up here, get that straight, and then I welded the bottom, and then I welded up the top. And when I went and did, as you can see here on this side here, the tab and everything is still there. What I'm going to do is weld that all up on the inside now. I went and cleaned it all up, like this here. And now I'll go back and I'll weld all this now, and grind that up. I don't have to be too fussy with that on the outside, because I want that there for strength. In here, this is the tricky spot. One of the reasons why I put the curves in it is a lot easier to grind. This stuff, inside corners are the hardest things in the world to try to grind, is that inside corner down. I got some small stones and zip blade wheels and stuff like that here, and I'll work all this here. I'll show you all that in a minute. But first thing I'm going to do now is get all this welded up on the inside and have that done. I got them all welded up on the outside. You saw me here running a bead on this here, and like I continuously went, because this is 18 gauge. Again, I forgot to say what it was. It's 18 gauge. And I'm in a corner area here, and I'm making this off the car. This has got a lot of strength to it, so you're going to apply a lot more heat. Now, you've seen how I weld when I run beads on sheet metal. I never run a steady pass on sheet metal. I'll always pulse weld, even if I'm just running a bead. And I'll do it that way because it controls the heat more. I have my welder set up that is pretty high heat. So if I had to start running a bead, I would have blew a hole in this here. So I pulse it, so that way I get good penetration, and I also control the heat. It's not as much heat going in, because the more you weld solid, the more heat goes into the metal. So every time you stop the welder, it gets a chance to cool. It may not seem like much, but it do cool and keep the temperature down. So now I got that welded inside and out. Now it's time to start cleaning it all up. I got that all grind in there, and grind up sides there and that there, so that's all finished. Never used nothing fancy. One of the reasons why I like these air grinders is because they take the same stones and wheels and everything that the electric grinder fits. Is one of the reasons why I like using it. That way I can interchange them. As you can see here, I got a number of different styles. This is a tapered back one, like this covers in. In other words, the actual blade itself for the cutting wheel is tipped upwards, while this one here is flat, right, on it as well. I've used them for getting in the corner there. I find these great for just getting in there, just slowly cutting. It's pretty tricky to get into that corner very small with this grinder. with a stone, but I managed to get it all done up between using this here, all this here, and then using the couple of die grinding bits and 2 little air grinders. So that's all I do with them. To clean all that out there just takes my time. I'll get in there and I'll grind so much with that, and then I'll clean it up with that there edge, and you can see what you're left with. It's all done around there now, and it's got a pretty decent corner in there. So I'm going to go ahead now and finish this side off and get it ready so I can start fitting this in. So there it is. I got it all cleaned up in there. Went over it, sanded it all down, got it all dressed up. It took me about 15-20 minutes to do it, but got it all cleaned up. It's a lot tighter when you do it this way off the car than is trying to do it. All I got to be concerned about now is this outer lip. Finish everything as you're going. Went ahead then, I played around where I'd like the license plate to. Even on the back, on either side. I even tried having it even up here, but I found it was too far down. So I moved it up and put it at about 3/4 of an inch here and about an inch here. I marked it. I'm going to drill 2 holes now so that is done. And that way I can mount the license plate. Because when I'm said and done, I'd say about this much of this is about all that's going to be left. That's going to be mounted in this car. There's not going to be a lot there, right? Because my whole intentions here is not to come right down and underneath with it and get into this. I plan on just cutting it off here, up here, and in here, just Frenching in just enough so that the plate, there's a spot there for the plate to sit. I'm not going to go right on in right deep and have the plate right deep in. I figured if I went in probably 1.5 inches, 1.25 or so in on the top, and then wherever the bottom falls, it goes, because there's a pretty big crown on this. And if it goes in, I'd say if I went in order to come in straight on the bottom, I would have to go in almost 2 inches on the top, and I think it'll look too deep. I'm trying to, you know, just make this look like it belongs there. So all I'm going to do is lay it up against it and mark it out around it on the sides of it, center it up, make sure it's all marked out and centered. I'll use these original taillight sections to center it up, and I'll mark over so far on both sides. And then when I get it centered up, I'll just draw a straight line across here and mark it out, and then just start trimming it back as I'm going. So here's all I went and did. I measured over from the 2 lights over to a certain point till I found the center, and I marked it off, and I double checked it to make sure that this here is in the center. I come down about 3/4 of an inch across here, marked a parallel line here, and I took a little round circly thing, which in the case of what I've been using since is the socket, specialty tool, and marking out these corners. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out this corner first and bring it right down with a large arbor with the step drill, and then I'm going to round out these corners. So then all I got to do is just cut this across here and cut this across here. Not sure how far down I'm going to go yet. I'll just basically wing that as I'm going. I might just take it to here and just cut it off and see what it looks like, and mark it straight across there. I probably should mark that now anyway, because probably it's all I'm going to do. I don't want to go getting right into the bottom side of it, so I'll mark it across there, and I'll just basically cut that one there will be cut off square, but these will be cut off round. So get them drilled out there now. Some people are going to say here now, well, Tony, why didn't you just cut this and fold it back and weld pieces in there? It's a lot harder working welding in pieces, especially at a straight edge. I make up that panel like I did, so there was very little welding involved on the inside cornered edges. I prefer to make it off the car and then mount this on it, and I'll tack this in it. This is not something that you want to do on the bench. It'll move on you a lot, so this is permanently mounted to the car. I'll get this pretty well set up, put in place, and welded in before I even take it off the car, and I'll finish it all off the car. But in order to do it proper, it's best to have it mounted and bolted up in place to where it's going to go. Some people would have just took this, cut this down here, folded that back, and welded a strip here and a strip here. I just find this a lot more work because you're going to have this here going in and out, trying to get a strip to weld across there. At least doing it the way I'm doing it here now, all I got to be worried about is this outer edge. I haven't got to worry about nothing inside. I'm going to get them brought up now to the die grinder, out to the outer edge. So if they fits good, then I'll take the zip blade in and cut the rest of it out. Alright, so I got that trimmed out. And as you can see, it don't seem like I'm going to use a lot of it, but I don't want to go too far into it. I'm trying to keep the strength at the bottom of it, and I don't want to go in too deep. Now what I ended up doing is I went up here, and that's about 60 degrees there. They're straight up and down on the backs of this truck. And because I got that angle here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up to be the same as that, which is about 60 degrees. So all I'll do is I'll set that up like so. And I'll mark that around there first. We'll trim most of this off out of the way first. And that'll be plenty good for that. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll start tacking it around here. So I'm going to mark it first and get it trimmed up. Okay, I got it trimmed out now. There's the piece I cut out. May seem like you're saying, you know, Tony, it's an awful lot of wastage, but I'll keep that. I'll put that to use. But I prefer to make things bigger, I always say that, so I can get things fitted up. Now, I also cut this and left the marker line and everything on it, so this is still going to be too big. I prefer to have it that way. I don't want this to fall in through the hole too much. So I'm going to fit this in place now and start welding it in. So I got tack welded in place. As you can see, there's still a lot of material left off. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to start working my way around on the outside here now, trimming this up as I'm going. I'm going to knock it down with the grinder and cut it off a small bit and start welding it all the way around. I'm not going to remove this panel until I get this fully welded on the outside here. I'm going to weld it all on the inside as well, but I want to get the outside fully welded first before I take it off the truck, because every time you take these panels off, they got a tendency to twist, and if you start welding this up, it's all going to want to move on you. So the best place to do it is on the truck itself. So I'm going to go ahead now, start cleaning this up and welding it up. There it is. I welded it around, cooled it off, welded it around every inch or so, cooled it off. Took my time with it because it will warp this, right? So I got it all straightened away here now. It's all welded up on the outside. It's after cooling down now. The whole point I can touch it and everything. So I'm going to bolt the whole thing now, and I'm going to weld it on the inside before I start stressing the outside. Got it off now, and I get ready now to start welding this all up inside here. I want to show you these. Remember them tabs that I welded on? I made up earlier. They're permanently part of the piece now, and that's what they look like now when they're off the car. And over here you can see the two tabs that it bolts to. So they'll just slide in there and tighten up, and here you go. Just a simple little tab setup that's just made up of a little piece of steel and an old bolt. And it works best kind. Instead of just welding a nut to the panel itself, you weld a large piece to this here, and it dissipates the strain out throughout it. And this is 14 gauge metal that I got this mounted to, and this is only 18 gauge, right? So I'm going to go ahead now and get this all welded up in here so I can start dressing the outside. So I got all this welded up inside here. All this is done now. So all I got left to do now is to grind this off. I'm going to do this like I've done it many times before. I'll grind it flat here, I'll grind it flat here, flat here, flat here, same thing up here, and get a sharp line on it. Once I get the sharp line on it, then I'll start shaping it so it's a nice round edge, right? All I'm going to grind it up with is these 24s. I picked these up a while ago, and after buying 2 or 3 boxes of them now, and I'm finding them they're really good. I'm using them for everything, and they last a long time, so that's all I'm going to do this with. And I went ahead and I grind it like I said I was going to grind on the flat here and on the flat here. And you can see I got a nice crisp sharp edge all the way around here now. I went back there and you can see here I touched up a few spots where I missed or I didn't like. And I'm going to grind them off now, and I'm going to round out this edge. Geez, that's some sharp. I cut my finger on it if I want to. Anyway, get that done. So there you have it, all grind up. That's one of the advantages of when you weld it on the inside. You can really dress it on the outside, and you can get a really nice finish, right? And I picked that up a long time ago, and I found it was a lot easier. It doesn't always look the best on the inside, but it's a lot stronger, right? It's all welded up in here. It's just lots of strength and lots of material there, right? So the back side of that now you'd seam seal it, and then you'd probably put in an undercoating or an edge primer and some rust converter around this over here. Probably what you end up doing. But that's not my job. I had to do all the metal fabrication on this truck, and that was it. A lot of people ask me about what I do with the backside panels. I'm going to cover it all in that car. I'll be going over all that with that car. But for now, I got to get this here. I'm going to bolt this on now for one last test fit, and I'll put a plate on, see what it looks like. And there you have it, all mounted back on the truck again. License plate laid in place. You see the finish going up around there. Flows with the light. The way it all goes. There's nothing too big. Like if you wanted to make that bigger and deeper and sunk like that, I think it won't be too deep, because up here it's over an inch deep, and it's room up here now. If you want to put an ID light or something up there, you can put it up there. It'll be hidden, or some of the guys just put ID lights under the bolts. But yeah. But it's a pretty simple setup. Just take your time with it. Like I said before, just turn around and do a section, grind it, finish it off as you're going, because you can only imagine all the welding that I've after doing on this. If I had to weld it all up and then sit down and had to grind it all up, it really, really gets overwhelming when it comes to grinding. I hate grinding. I don't mind when I'm grinding small sections, especially stuff like this here. I get to see a real nice finish at the end of it. But, you know, grinding is not something we all love to do. So try not to get too far into your projects. Do a bit of grinding here and a bit of grinding there and complete it before you move on to the next one. But that's it. Some of you might be able to take some, you could, like this basic what you could do for making any roll pan. I used your existing sections that were off the car, but you could have made all this up as well and then rolled it around the corner somehow. You would have made up the corner sections here. I made up a lot of roll pans over the years. This one here, I just had to join it in the middle. And I had that nice little relief going on there, which is nice little feature. It doesn't look so squared off like so many are. And it matches where the plate goes. But anyway, that's it for this one. I hope the tips were good. And until next time. Yeah, peanuts. 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 What are you saying? Yeah.